and I forgot my notebook.
Welcome to Astro Venture, the DSLR astrophotography channel.
Hey there, Astroventures, welcome back. If you're new to this astrophotography channel, my name is George, and this video is my July 2023 target recommendations. And let's get started here. Now, July, favorite month for astrophotography, and the reason being is there is just so much going on right now, and because of July being awesome, this video is actually coming out a couple days early, and the reason being is every July, that's when I head off to some Bortle One skies to spend that new moon week out there just doing my astrophotography. So I wanted to get this out to you before the new moon and before I head out of town. So let's get started. First off, Cygnus the Swan. You're going to find Cygnus overhead in the night sky in the middle of the Milky Way, flying south right down the Milky Way line. You can see here all over all these yellow arrows, Cygnus is a target-rich environment. We have the North American Nebula, the Pelican Nebula, we've got the Cygnus Star Cloud, we've got the Dumbbell Nebula, Crescent Nebula, the Veil Nebula, Elephant Trunk Nebula, Wizard Nebula. I can't tell you how much is in there. And so with that said, if you're unsure of a target and you just can't find something, just locate Cygnus the Swan. She stands out very well in the night sky, flying down the Milky Way, and there is no lack of targets there. And although there are a number of large hydrogen alpha cloud nebulas up there, they are so strong in their emission that even stock cameras tend to pick them up very well. So if in doubt, locate Cygnus the Swan flying down the Milky Way, target-rich environment, go for it. Now let's move on to some more specific targets. And first off, I'm going to take a look at the Lobster and Catspaw Nebula. Now these are going to be to the south, just to the east of Scorpius right now, and these are hydrogen alpha targets, pretty strong targets, but the biggest challenge for many of us in the northern hemisphere is that they are way down low on the southern horizon. And so with that, because July is kind of that peak point before everything starts to shift and head back south, you're going to want to jump on these in the month of July. And with this, you can shoot them at 300 to 600 millimeters. And again, I always make these focal length references when you're shooting with a crop sensor camera. So suggestion 300 to 600 millimeters, and with that, depending on how you frame it up, you could get both of them in there if you would like. So there you go, Lobster Nebula, Catspaw Nebula. These are two kind of lesser, not as popular ones to go after, but great targets right down there next to Scorpius. Next, let's take a look at the Lagoon and Trifit Nebula, M8 and M20. These are located just above Sagittarius, or the teapot or tea kettle. These targets here, although there is a good amount of hydrogen alpha in there, there's also some blue in there, but this is what I would call a great beginner target, and the reason being is because there's enough emission, enough strength of that hydrogen alpha coming out that even stock cameras pick this target up very, very well. And you could shoot this 300 to 600 millimeters on a crop sensor, and depending on how you want to frame it up, you can get both targets or try to cue in on one specific target. But either way, these are great targets, and again, next month they're going to start diving low, easily locatable because of the tea kettle in the southern sky at the bottom of the Milky Way there. And as I'm going through these, before we move on to the next one, I want to mention that, of course, there's the obvious Milky Way. The Milky Way core is sitting in a beautiful position to the southern sky. So if you can get yourself into a location where you've got a good, dark southern horizon, you can get that core and really make it pop. So although it's not one of the specific targets I'm mentioning, take advantage of getting your Milky Way shots now. Absolutely gorgeous. Okay, moving on from there. The next target, and again, we're going to be staying south and moving up the Milky Way a little bit further. We're going to go to the Eagle Nebula M16, 300 millimeters or greater. This has a lot of hydrogen alpha in it. This one can be a little bit difficult to find. I've had my own challenges in trying to find it. Combination of not real large combined with the fact that it is hydrogen alpha, and it can be that much more difficult on a stock camera. But the Eagle Nebula, again, one of the, I would say, lesser photograph targets. Next up, I'm going to send you over to NGC 7822, and this is a target just below Cepheus, and Cepheus, I kind of refer to that one as being like a house, and it's below, and right now the house is laying on its side. It's right below the roof if the house were laying on the side, and I did not find a name for this particular target, but it's a good large target. It does lend itself more towards the Astro modified because there is a lot of hydrogen alpha, but this target, 200 millimeters, it's a nice large target. So you could shoot this one 100 millimeters, 200 millimeters. So pretty much anybody's going to have focal length to be able to pull this one off. Next up, Andromeda, great beginner target. However, at this time of the year, most likely you're going to need to wait until about 1 o'clock in the morning for it to get up higher, but it is coming into range. And with that one, this is a 100 millimeter focal length target or greater. Ideally, I think 200 fits really well. Again, using a crop sensor camera. But the Andromeda Galaxy is a beautiful, or M31. It's a beautiful starter target because of the fact that it is so big, there's so much, and it shows up well on the back of your camera, so when you're trying to locate it. And if you're in a dark enough sky area, you can actually see the smudge of the stars in the night sky. So Andromeda, definitely a target to go to. It'll be in a much better position next month, but if you're out there and you're looking for something, like I said, or you have really good clear skies to the east, you might jump on that one now. The last one, and this is actually my primary target for my my Astro trip this year, is to go for Royuki. And that one, I know I've mentioned, I think I mentioned it last month as well, but right now Ro is really sitting as high as it can be before it starts to dive down. Now, if you're going after it, what I want to suggest to you is if you target NGC 6144, and that was the most centrally located target that I could, that would be in any database that I could find, that would really kind of center up all of the nebulosity that is within Royuki, to include the blue horse head. If you'll just go after NGC 6144, it'll get it in there. Now, 85 millimeters, and you can see it there on the screen. I have that all green in the green box framed up. That's 85 millimeters on a crop sensor, and you can see how nicely that fits up. Now, because you're stacking images and you may end up with a little bit of cropping happening, you could certainly jump to a 50 millimeter, and many of us own these 50 millimeters that, you know, that have an aperture of 1.8, so easy to get lots of light. And the final thing I want to say is, because Ro is kind of my nemesis, I love that target, I'm always chasing it, but I've never cross my fingers for a week from now. I've never been able to really shoot it in dark Bortle 1 skies, and my reason in bringing that up is Ro really does like a nice, clean, non-light polluted sky to really get those colors to pop out. It can be done, but there's just so much in there, and light pollution just kind of detracts from it. So if you can, try and go after that in those really non-light polluted areas, and Ro will really reward you. But like I said, 50 millimeters, you could, you know, start there. 85 millimeters frames up absolutely gorgeous to fill the frame. So either way, well, there you have it. Those are my target suggestions for you for the month of July. And again, this video will come out to you a little bit early because I want to make sure you have it before you get to the dark sky weekend. And as I said, I'm heading out of town. My plan is I'm going to spend some time doing some astrophotography down there in Goblin Valley, Utah. If you're unfamiliar, it is an absolutely gorgeous park down there. And my other location will be shooting out around the Dead Horse Point State Park in Utah, out around there. And again, another gorgeous location with beautiful skies to the south for capturing the Milky Way and some of these southern targets. Before I let you go, if you would like to continue the conversation, or, you know, talk to myself, please join us over at our Facebook group, Astro Venture DSLR. And if you like the video and the content and what we're doing here, consider liking, subscribing, ringing the bell, and sharing this video out so we can help grow the channel. Till next time, I wish you clear skies and uneventful nights, and I'm heading on vacation.